Jerseydood back again with segment 5B of how I digitize and stitch a patch. We're going to try to take what we've learned from the Sarnia Sting and the Drummondville Voltigeurs jersey and apply it to this design, trying to get things to stitch out in the proper position. And I apologize for the clearing of the throat. I have junk in my throat all the time. I apologize, but I can't help it. So there's obviously a stitch order to every design that you work on, and it makes sense to go logically and stitch the things that are furthest in the background first. It doesn't always work out that way. You could do it a number of different ways. I could stitch this orange first and put these yellow pieces on top of it afterward, but then you start running into trouble when you get at this yellow piece, the highlight around the bear. So sort of dictated that the yellow be stitched first. I could stitch the teal green shadows on the face and neck first if I wanted to, with 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I decided to get the major stitching done over here first. I've started out with the outline out here, and that is underneath the orange, and there is some underlap there. I have arranged this so that it is very slightly wider and is underlapped under the orange so that it covers. Sometimes you have to be a little careful with the colors that you overlap. If you were putting white over black or bright red, you may have to close up the density on this orange in order to get full coverage and not have show through. So too may you get a bump right here. You'll see a physical bump in the orange where the yellow was stitched under it. It's more of a problem when you're right up on top of it. And if you put your microscope away and you step back and look at the design from a proper distance, it really ends up not being that big a deal. You just live with it. So we've got the outline there first. These little tiny pieces here on either side are relatively inconsequential. We'll stitch those next. And the sun is behind the glow around our bear. And you can see that that's also underlapped underneath the purple blue. We will also stitch the teal blue green shadows. They are essentially on the same level as the yellow in terms of depth. And the last thing that we'll stitch will be the purple outlines. This is where I'm trying to replicate the success of the Voltigeurs jersey, where the most important aspect of the entire thing comes in last. I'm still trying to manage push-pull here. I have it in mind. I'm trying to even it out and balance it. If you just mindlessly go along and stitch everything at default, every piece that you've got here will stitch at 15 degrees, and you would end up with a big 15-degree push-pull factor. I'm trying to eliminate that possibility by varying the stitch angles. The sun outline is done in digitized blocks, so the stitch angles are all over the place with that. That's a big cancel there because it's going in all directions. The orange part of the sun I stitched at sort of a complementary angle to the default, 140. For some reason my machine does not like to stitch at the complementary angle of 15, so I have to go a little bit further away from 165 than I would normally. I don't know why it doesn't stitch good at that, but I don't fight it, I just work around it. These shadows are also stitched at looser angles, 161, this is 155. The outline here is stitched at 15, so we have some going the other way. That one you can't really work out stitch angles to stitch beautifully everywhere because it goes 360 degrees around. These are sort of arranged so that they stitch across in somewhat the shortest direction. Instead of stitching these big long runs across here, I've stitched them in shorter runs. I'm balancing the look of them with the direction of the stitch angles and everything else. I've tried to play this out so that we'll have the highest degree of success when it actually stitches. Now, is that going to pay off, or is it only going to be a fool's errand and in reality blow up in our faces? I don't know. You never really know how things are going to look until you stitch them. I begrudgingly expect to have failures now. I don't like to waste materials or machine time, wear and tear, or sit and listen to the thing banging away for any longer than I have to. But the reality is that you have to accept some failures now and then and learn how to deal with them. Hopefully, we have learned from previous efforts, and this one will hit the bullseye right off the get-go.